The iPhone X and OnePlus 5T are two very different devices right from the start. The iPhone is clearly geared towards those who crave simplicity. The OnePlus, on the other hand, is geared towards those who enjoy flexibility and consider value a top priority. A typical OnePlus user is someone who wants to personalize their phone. They want to extract as much as possible from the phone in terms of hardware and software. Most importantly, they have a huge sense of pride in the hardware specs that comes with the OnePlus. While most users will never truly utilize the power of the included 6 or 8 gigs of RAM, they do like to brag about it. It gives them a sense of safety, knowing that they have the best specs and they paid half the price of any flagship out there in comparison. The iPhone is the complete opposite. On paper, hardware specs are laughable in comparison to the OnePlus, and it should not perform as well as it does. Yet, it proves itself by utilizing optimization and CPU technology. The A11 Bionic is easily one generation ahead of everything else on the market in terms of power and efficiency. In short, this phone is for people who don't care about specs. The iPhone is for those who enjoy real-world performance and enjoy the cross-compatibility between iOS and macOS. It is a phone for those who don't need a phone that has too many bells and whistles, but is a phone that works and doesn't let them down. So keeping all of that in mind, let's move right into our comparisons. And just a quick note, guys, if you're going to be commenting that the 5T is a better phone because it's $500 or it's obviously better because it's half the price and all that kind of stuff, don't watch this video. You've already made your decision. You already have a bias towards the 5T. Nothing I say or show in this video is going to change your mind. However, if you have an open mind, keep watching and let's find out which is the better phone. Alright, so moving right in, let's start off by looking at both the phones and what they feel like to use, the build quality, and just the overall physical layout. So the OnePlus 5T has a alert slider and the volume buttons on the left side, same as the iPhone. Both do have these alert sliders, which I find incredibly useful and I wish came in more phones. And then at the bottom, we have USB-C on the 5T, a headphone jack, and a speaker grill. No headphone jack on the iPhone X. You have the Lightning and 2 grills here, one for the speaker, one for the mic. The second speaker on the iPhone is actually made up of this speaker up here that doubles as your earpiece when you take phone calls. One more thing, when it comes to the right side, both similar again, power button and SIM card, both. So very similar layout when it comes to the top, very clean. At the back, we have the dual cameras on both phones. The OnePlus 5T does have a fingerprint scanner right here that is so it's not visible all the time, but it does have that fingerprint scanner, whereas the iPhone X does not. Both have dual cameras, and the layout is a little bit different. This is horizontal, this is vertical, and the internal setup is slightly different as well. Flash integrated in this unit, Flash is not integrated in that unit. And when we look at the front, we have a 6-inch display on the 5T, 5.8 on the on the iPhone X. However, one thing that I would like to note is that both of these phones are very similar in display size. However, the 5T does have a lot larger of a frame and design, so it does feel a little bit more traditional. Now, your preference will depend on what you want, but I personally feel like I prefer the design of the iPhone X over the OnePlus 5T. And one more thing I'd like to point out is that since the iPhone X has a glass back, it allows wireless charging, whereas the OnePlus 5T doesn't. However, with that glass back comes the caveat of having a weak phone on the back, so drops will definitely shatter your phone. So this is something that you need to put in a case or have a skin or some sort of protection on the back if you want to protect that glass. OnePlus 5T is a lot more durable thanks to its all-metal build. It does feel very strong, and I don't think that drops will really be affecting the back, except for maybe some scuffing. So I think that when it comes down to looks, I give it to the iPhone X. However, durability is the OnePlus 5T clearly. So let's move on. So moving on from the hardware, we have the software. Software on both these phones are very good. However, they do serve two different people. So the Android side is obviously for users who want a lot more personalization and more capability and access to the features of their device. The iPhone X is a little bit more locked down. It doesn't allow you to do as much. However, that lockdown on capability does give you a lot more performance and it does allow you a lot more access. So currently the iPhone 10 is running iOS 11. The OnePlus 5T still hasn't gotten the Android Oreo update, so it is running Android Nougat as of January 9th, and it is running on Oxygen OS, which is their skin on top of Android. It's actually a very nice skin. It provides a lot of interesting and useful tweaks, such as dark mode, which can be seen on the settings menu and other places, which is very helpful, and it really does help boost that AMOLED display's qualities because it takes advantage of things like this. The iPhone doesn't have features like that, which I really wish it did. So when it comes down to software, as I always say, if you want an Android, you're going to stick to an Android device. If you want an iOS device, you're going to stick to an iOS device. However, if you are a new user and you're making a choice, as I stated, if you want a lot more personalization and just access to your device, the Android side. If you want a very clean, neat layout that doesn't really give you a lot of hindrance, however, doesn't allow you customization, but is a little bit more stable, go with iOS. So let's move on. Alright guys, so let's compare a feature on both of these phones, and that is Face Unlock. So as you guys have seen, the Face Unlock on the OnePlus 5T is incredibly blazing fast, and not only that, the 5T also features a fingerprint scanner. iPhone 10, on the other hand, doesn't have a fingerprint scanner, it only has facial recognition. One thing I'd like to point out, guys, is that the iPhone, while obviously it only has that facial recognition, it doesn't use just the camera to identify your face. It uses a dot projection, and it actually makes a 3D model of your face to give you an accurate unlock. However, it's not been that accurate for me, and you guys have seen probably the other videos on my channel. If you haven't, be sure to check them out. I'll have them somewhere up here. It doesn't work well for me. My brother, who is not identical to me in any way, was able to unlock, and is still able to unlock my iPhone 10, whereas the 5T he can't unlock. So let me just show you guys. Ready? I'm going to hit the power button in 3, 2, 1. Unlocked. That's it. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Unlocked. So it doesn't even show any screen. It just immediately goes to my home screen. So let me just try to turn around here and give you guys a better angle at the 5T. Ready? There you go. Wait, one more time. That's it. It's so quick. It's blazing fast. Now, the caveat to this the face scanner is that it only works when the room is bright and there's actually enough light for the camera to see your face. If it's low lighting or if it's dark, it won't work. You'll have to be using the fingerprint scanner. But I like how there's the option to use a fingerprint scanner. Very annoyed that Apple doesn't give you that option. I mean, I rather would have taken a fingerprint scanner over Face ID any day. I think anybody would have. However, we can't do much. So let me show you what the OnePlus 5T, the iPhone 10 looks like. Ready, set, okay. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, that just unlocked. All right, ready? We'll try it a little bit faster. 3, 2, 1. Now it unlocked. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Now it unlocked. So there's a good second or two gap there between the 5T and the iPhone. So let me try to put both of these side by side and see if you guys can see them on the screen. All right, there we go. So let me try them again. Right, 3, 2, 1. Unreal. Ready? 3, 2, 1. It's not even a close call here anymore. So you guys have seen that. So I think it's pretty clear that I think that the OnePlus 5T, when it comes to security, it offers a lot more with both fingerprint and the Face ID, the facial recognition thing, instead of just Face ID on the iPhone 10, which isn't accurate for me, and I've heard a lot of other people say as well, it doesn't work out well for them. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to buy an iPhone 10. So let's move on. Moving on into benchmarks. Now, I know benchmarks aren't a very good gauge of a phone's performance in the real world. However, it is a number to go by, and I do think that benchmarks are important. So let's compare benchmarks here, and starting off with the network speed test. So what I usually do is I run 3 tests on speed test, the same app on both phones, and I do these 3 tests to make sure that we don't have any outliers or kind of tests that were out of the normal. So as you can see, pretty stable results on on both the phones. The iPhone 10 had slightly lower speeds, whereas the OnePlus 5T had slightly higher speeds on both upload and download. So that's something that you do want to keep in mind here. However, when it comes to real world, you really don't see that difference. It's only on the speed test where I noticed that there was a clear networking difference. So let's move on and let's look at the Antutu benchmark. So Antutu is something that I was surprised by. I expected the OnePlus 5T to beat the iPhone 10, however, it didn't. It didn't even come close to it, and I really expected it to do better, especially because of the 8 gigs of RAM this phone has in comparison to the 3 that the iPhone has. So the score was 182,508 on the OnePlus 5. The iPhone 10 got 230,303. Now again, as I stated, these are benchmarks. You don't have to read too much into it, but it does give you somewhat of a number and a standpoint to do a comparison on. And for the final test I ran a Geekbench CPU test, and the CPU is clearly, as I stated in the beginning of the video, the key fact that makes iPhones really excel. Just look at the single core and multi-core score. It's almost double on the multi-core, more than double on the single core, and it kind of gives you a very good idea of why the iPhone performs a lot better in certain aspects. So keep in mind that the iPhone 10 is a 6-core device, whereas the OnePlus 5T is a 8-core device. So despite having more cores, the multi-core score and the general CPU scores are lower. So don't read too much into those benchmark guys. The benchmarking isn't something that I generally consider too much when I am reviewing a phone or when I'm forming opinions about a phone. They're just a number to use for comparison. It doesn't really paint the real world picture. In the real world, we've seen many tests where the OnePlus 5T actually keeps up very well with the iPhone 10, in fact beating it when you're using apps and doing other types of tests. Now, the thing with the OnePlus 5T is that it really does win, in my opinion, because of that RAM. The RAM really helps it keeps all those apps open and ready to go, whereas the iPhone 10, it struggles because of that 3 gigs of RAM. It can't keep as much open as the OnePlus 5T can. However, when it comes to CPU-intensive tasks such as video rendering and editing and exporting, the iPhone 10 does a lot better than the OnePlus 5T, and that kind of comes down to, they're both very excellent in performance. However, I feel like in terms of CPU, the iPhone is a lot better, and it is a lot more future-proof in comparison to the OnePlus 5T. So, let's move on. After giving both of those speakers a chance, I think it's fairly clear that the dual speakers on the iPhone 10 do really sound a lot better. I'm fairly certain that, again, because of this mic setup, you won't be able to truly hear how much deeper and better the dual speaker setup sounds. In terms of decibels as well, the iPhone was a lot louder than the OnePlus. So for this test, the iPhone 10 definitely wins. Let's move on. Starting off with the photo from the rear cameras, we can see that in this picture, the OnePlus 5T has a very washed out look, especially comparing it to the iPhone 10. The iPhone 10 is a lot warmer, and the level of detail is quite impressive. And I think this one clearly goes to the iPhone 10. This photo is a little bit better, and I think that this one, there's no clear winner. However, if you want punchier photos, the iPhone 10 is a lot punchier with that color, whereas in this image, the OnePlus 5T has a lot more detail, especially on the purple leaf. If you notice, you can see the smaller details much more clearly in comparison to the iPhone 10. Now, in this photo, I think it's very clear that the iPhone 10 is a lot better. The colors and the level of detail in the granite is very much seen in the iPhone 10 in comparison to the OnePlus 5T. The 5T feels a little bit more, too overexposed, not to mention that very cool bluish tone really doesn't help out in this situation. Following up with another photo of granite, again, you can see that the color and detail on the iPhone X is so much better in comparison to the OnePlus 5T. The OnePlus 5T feels dull in comparison, and not only in color, but in detail as well. Just look at the black grains on the grayish bit of marble, and you can clearly see that the level of detail is very different on the two phones. Now here's a portrait mode photo from both the OnePlus 5T and the iPhone X, and the OnePlus 5T is very wonky when it comes to portrait mode. It doesn't do a good job. Just look at the right top corner of the OnePlus 5T, and you can see that some parts of the top are blurred out. When you come a little bit down, you can see that some parts aren't, and they're a little bit more in focus, and it's the same thing throughout the photo. Some places look like there's a blur effect, some places don't, and this isn't on one photo. I've noticed this in many photos. OnePlus doesn't do a good job of having a very consistent blur effect. iPhone X, on the other hand, it does have that more cropped in photo because it's using a telephoto lens to get this photo, and the detail here is a lot better. It doesn't feel as washed out as the other photo, and overall, if you were to pick between the two, I think the iPhone X is the clear winner when it comes to portrait photos. Moving on to the front cameras, now this is one field where I was very hard pressed to find a clear winner, because the OnePlus 5T provides a nice wide angle. It keeps a lot more in focus, not to mention that it just looks a little bit better. And both these photos were taken in the same exact spot. However, when you look at the 5T, it honestly makes everything look so much wider, and it looks a lot better, in my opinion. However, it doesn't have that same level of detail on my face. As you can see on the iPhone X, my face is a lot more in detail. You can see a lot more details on my forehead, and that's something that is going to come up to what you personally prefer, if you like the detail or whether you like the wide angle. However, in my experience, selfies are usually taken with groups or multiple members, and having a wider angle lens with more things in focus is a lot more convenient than having a more, more focused lens with detail only on one subject. Moving on, we have an indoor low light shot. Now, at first glance, I would say that the OnePlus 5T looks a little bit better in comparison to the iPhone X. However, when I started to notice the details of the photo, I started to realize that the iPhone X is a little bit better. Just notice the American flag in the right hand near the top corner, and look at both the OnePlus 5T and the iPhone X. It's very clear that the iPhone X's a lot more in focus, especially with the further objects, whereas it gets a lot more blurry on the OnePlus 5T. However, when we're looking at the iPhone in this photo, both the cameras seem to have captured the detail decently well. The iPhone X has a much warmer hue in comparison to the OnePlus 5T, and in this, I prefer the cooler tone of the 5T. However, I do like the more focus in the background of the iPhone X. So this is going to be a subjective one to you guys. Which one you prefer is up to you. And the final indoor photo, again, the OnePlus 5T, in my opinion, beats out the iPhone X with the front cameras on both instances. The 5T's camera keeps so much more in focus. Just look at the Porsche poster behind me in both images, and you can clearly see that the OnePlus 5T has it in a lot more focus in comparison to the iPhone X. And however, with that focus in the background, you do lose some focus on your face, as you can see in my case. You can see a lot more details in my beard with the the iPhone X as compared to the OnePlus 5T. However, as I said before, I feel like the more focused photo of the 5T in the background would help with things such as group selfies. So it comes down to it, I feel like the 5T has the better front camera. So let's move on to the videos. Alright everybody, this is the camera video test of the OnePlus 5T and iPhone X. OnePlus 5T is on the left and the iPhone X is on the right. So as I'm panning around and just looking around, the OnePlus 5 looks a little bit choppy. iPhone X is a lot smoother, but this might just be the preview. Both of the phones are on their highest video settings, so that means the OnePlus 5 is on 4K 30 FPS, iPhone X on 4K 60 FPS, and let me know what you guys think is the better video. Alright everybody, so once again we have a video test with the iPhone X, the OnePlus 5T and the iPhone X. iPhone X is on the right, OnePlus 5T on the left. Let me know what you guys think about the quality. I'm sorry for the ambient noise. There's a lot of construction going on, so I can't do much. What I'm seeing here is that the iPhone is a little bit dull, so I just adjusted the color manually, the brightness manually, leaving it back onto manual now. Let me know what you guys think. What I do see is that the iPhone X has a lot of details as usual, but the color, not the best. Both are on 1080p, the highest settings for the front camera, so let me know. Alright everybody, so this is the indoor camera test of the OnePlus 5T and the iPhone X. Let me know what you guys think about it. I'm sorry about my desk and it's such a mess, but so let me know, what can you see? Can you guys see the details properly? Can you see the things on my desk? And just generally let me know. 5T is on the left. The iPhone X is on the right. Both highest settings, so OnePlus 5T is on 4K 30 FPS. iPhone X is on 4K 60 FPS. So let me know. Alright guys, so this is the front camera test in low lighting inside my office. So let me know what you guys think. What do you think about the lighting, the camera, and just everything else? What I'm seeing is that the iPhone X is just pathetic here. You can barely see my face. Okay, now you can see it. So let me know what you guys think. I'm thinking that the 5T here is doing a lot better. So let me know. Again, both on the highest settings, so 1080p for both of them. 5T on the left, iPhone X on the right. So that wraps up the camera comparison. And one thing that comes to my head is that I kind of assumed this to be one-sided, that the iPhone X would win by a landslide. However, some things I'm noticing is that the front camera on the iPhone X is absolutely horrible. It's not good, and OnePlus on many occasions, and on most occasions, completely beats the iPhone X when it comes to the front camera. The rear camera in outdoor lightings, the iPhone X obviously very good. I don't think you can really beat it. When it came to video, again, interesting results. When we were outdoors, the iPhone was a lot better, including the front camera, whereas the OnePlus was struggling a little bit in my opinion. However, when it came to the indoor video, this is where I was very surprised at how poor the iPhone actually is at shooting low light. The colors are just so warm and dull, and you can't see anything. The OnePlus 5T does a much better job of just exposing everything in the video, as well as, having a lot more detail, and it just looks a lot better indoors. Not only on the rear camera, but the front camera as well. The iPhone X's front camera, for some reason, absolutely does not like low light. It just performs so horribly, and it took me a lot of tries to actually make the front camera give decent results on the iPhone X in low light. So if you're doing a lot of low light selfies and photography, I think that the OnePlus is also a very good choice. However, for the overall camera comparison, the winner has to be the iPhone X. So that wraps up the test and the comparison between the OnePlus 5T and the iPhone X. In conclusion, what I'd like to start off with is the iPhone X and the OnePlus 5T are both excellent devices. They are really some of the best devices of the year, and it actually astonishes me how much both the OnePlus 5T and the iPhone X stay neck and neck with each other in almost every single aspect. The iPhone X definitely has that better CPU, and it really does make a joke out of tasks such as video processing and stuff. However, the OnePlus 5T with its extra RAM really does beat out the iPhone when it comes to holding on to apps and keeping everything open and ready for you to go as you're using them. So personally, when it comes down to it, I still prefer the iPhone over the OnePlus 5T, and this is because the iPhone has that excellent videography. The video that comes out of the iPhone cameras is unreal. The 4K 60 FPS, the 1080p 240 FPS slow-mo recording, nothing beats it. Not even older iPhones can come close to it, and I really do appreciate that because I shoot a lot of video for this channel, and that's something that's very important to me. Not the still photography or the selfies. The cameras, when it comes to videography, is very important to me. So one thing that does bother me with the OnePlus 5T and all Android devices in general is software updates that Apple does so well. The software updates on these Android devices are so slow. So Android 8.0, the newest Android version, came out in August, and it's January now, and we still don't have that update on the OnePlus 5T, which came out after Oreo came out, so it kind of really bugs me that way. iPhones are always on the newest software, and they have software support for years to come in comparison to Android. However, when it comes down to it, it's undeniable that the OnePlus 5T is an excellent value. You could get 2 OnePlus 5Ts for the price of one iPhone 10. So immediately it just tells you it just paints a very different story for you. So when it comes to value for money, the OnePlus 5T is an unbeatable value proposition. So while I would personally take the iPhone, I think it's undeniable that the 5T is the better phone here. And the 5T definitely wins between the iPhone 10 and the OnePlus 5T. And if you guys are on the market, I would definitely recommend getting the 5T, unless you need the video capabilities of the iPhone. In that case, definitely stay away from the 5T. Get another Android phone, in fact, if you don't want the iPhone. So leaving that, the 5T is an excellent value proposition. I love it, and I think that they've done something very good with this phone, and I hope they keep doing things like this as they move into the future. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you bought a flagship this year, let me know down in the comments below which one you bought and why you bought it. If you want to follow me on social media, I have all the links down below. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. I have a lot more comparisons with the iPhone and the OnePlus coming up. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.